September 21st. Good afternoon. This is Socorro, City of Socorro Planning and Zoning Commission, September 21st, 5:32 p.m. We call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Mr. Andrew Arroyos.
Here.
Mr. Enrique Cisneros.
Here.
Mr. Ernest Gomez. Here. Mr. David Estrada.
Here.
Mr. Arturo Lafuente. He is absent. Ms. Julie Dominguez.
Here.
And Ms. Miriam Cruz.
Present.
We have quorum with 6 commissioners present. Moving on to item number 3, notice to the public. Ms. Diana, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
No, ma'am.
Moving on to item number 4, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda?
Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. So I have a motion made by Ms. Cruz and seconded by Mr. Estrada to approve. Motion, I'm so sorry. Let me call out the members. Mr. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes.
Mr. Enrique Cisneros,
Abstain.
Miss, Mr. Ernest Gomez, Mr. David Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Arturo Lafuente. He's absent for this one. Ms. Julius Dominguez
Here?
and Ms. Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Just for the record, Mr. Lafuente arrived at the meeting at 5:34 p.m. Moving on to item number 5, public hearing request for the proposed conditional use permit to allow a childcare facility in an R3 zoning district at 10410 Carter Scott Place, Block 3, Sombras de Misiones, Lot 4 in Socorro, Texas 79927. Mr. Arroyos?
We open public hearing at 5:34. We close public hearing at 5:34.
Moving on to item number 6, consider and take action on the proposed conditional use permit to allow a childcare facility in an R3 zone district at 10410 Scott Carter Place, Block 3, Sombras de Misiones, Lot 4 in Socorro, Texas 79927.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, good afternoon. Carlos Gainar with the Socorro Planning and Zoning Department. This is a conditional use permit, as you might know, and there are certain zoning districts that some uses are allowed by right and then some that are allowed by conditional use. This one in particular is for a conditional use to allow for a childcare facility in an R3. And so that is the item that's before you. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of the background information. This is a single family home. The property is a little bit over 5,000 square feet in the R3 zoning district. The applicant, as I mentioned, is requesting the conditional use permit to allow for a child care facility, and that is under section 46-292 of the Socorro Municipal Code. And the staff is recommending approval. I'll go through the slides in the presentation to walk you through some of the other items. Next slide, please. Here is the location map. So again, the street is Carter Scott Place. Next slide. Zoning is R3 and it abuts to agricultural use. Here is the property image. Next slide, please. Next slide. The aerial map of the subdivision, and then you see the parcel in outline in yellow. Next slide. This is the property survey. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, conditional use under R3 for a child care facility.
We didn't have anybody call in for opposing this?
I think there's one person on the line, but not for this case, right? And Mr. Chair, that's exactly right. So I checked with staff before this meeting, and we have not received any phone calls, emails, letters in opposition.
Are they doing the daycare now? Are they there now? Is that
I
what
don't
they're doing?
believe so, but the applicant is here if you'd like to ask her. Yeah. Was the question, sir?
What's that?
What is the question, please?
What is your question?
The question is she doing it now and she got busted or has she
Todavía
been
no
doing it?
empieza. La pregunta es que si usted ahorita está operando el child care facility. Yes, she is saying that she did have it.
She did have it?
She did have it.
Why is she asking for a permit now? What happened?
Porque aquí está pidiendo el permiso. Me dieron una nota de. Pero nadie le dio un ticket. No. So she is saying that somebody had told her that she needed a permit after the fact, but she did not get a notice of violation.
I want to ask, how long has a business been open for a daycare?
¿Cuánto tiene ya con el negocio? 4 years.
4 years.
And no complaints?
¿Quejas de alguien? No. No, sir.
That you know of, the city of Socorro received no complaints on that?
What's the question, sir?
I said, as far as you know, the city of Socorro has received no complaints on.
As far as I know, they have not received
Okay.
any complaints, correct? Yes, sir.
Is she licensed through the state?
¿Tiene la licencia para el estado? Yes. And we
She-
did verify that as part of the application process. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have documentation on that?
I do.
You want me to speak more clearly? What did you say? Okay. You got it.
Do we have any more conditional uses in that area presently?
Mr. Cisneros, I cannot answer that question. I don't know. We would have to go through the GIS map and go lot by lot. And anyone, as you know, I've been here several months now. This is the first one that we're getting in this area.
Thank you.
Will this go back to an R1 once she does close her daycare?
No, ma'am. It's an R3.
It'll stay as?
Yeah, it stays R3, correct. It's just the R3 is again the base zoning, and then the Socorro zoning code requires certain permits like this one, if you want to do certain different uses that are not allowed, what we call by right, that you could do it without having to go through this process. So after the conditional use permit goes away, the base zoning district stays the same.
Okay, great, thank you.
And everything else, like, there's no modifications to the building, the land, none of that.
Nobody has any more other questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second that motion.
I have a motion to approve made by Mr. Andrew Arroyos and seconded by Mr. Enrique Cisneros. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
and Ernest Gomez,
Yes. Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
and Mr. Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
and Ms. Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7, public hearing request for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Lot 10, Country Green Block 14, located at 628 Milo Road, from an R1 single-family residential to R2 medium-density residential. Mr. Arroyos?
Can I make a motion at this time to go into executive session before discussing items 7 and 8?
Yes.
Can I do that? Okay. I want to make a motion to go into executive session before discussing items 7 and 8.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Andrew Arroyos?
Yes.
Mr. Enrique Cisneros?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Gomez? And then Mr. David Estrada?
Yes.
Mr. Arturo Lafuente?
Yes.
Ms. Julie Dominguez?
Yes.
And Ms. Miriam Cruz?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Executive session starts at 5:42 PM.
back in regular session at 5:47, and we open public hearing at 5:47.
I wanted to state to the public that I am the owner for the lot on item number 6 and number 7, so for these two items, I will be sitting with the public, and I will also be abstaining from voting.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Esther Garcia. I do live in 621 Milo. My question is, what is exactly that you want to build there, or what is it that you want to do there?
Mr. Chair, would you want me to answer, or should I go through the presentation?
Yes, please.
Answer it?
Yes, sir.
So to the resident on the line, Carlos Gallinado with the City of Socorro Planning and Zoning Department. This is a rezoning to allow for a duplex. And so if it's rezoned, ma'am, the applicant would be allowed to build a duplex on the lot.
Okay, a duplex would be like a two-family dwelling, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have no problem with that. That's fine. As long as, you know, they're good people, I have no problem with that. But I have another question or problem or concern to the City of Socorro. See, I'm a resident here, and I just received this notice, and I don't think it's right for you all to send these notices at the last minute. The thing is that if somebody gets it and they have something else to do, or they have another meeting like I do, that I'm doing this on the run, that's not fair to the residents.
Yes, ma'am, but the notice should have gone out 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah, the notice.
Okay, let me tell you, my notice, the notice that I got, the letter, it's dated September the 8th, but the envelope that I received is dated the 20th of September.
So we'll have to look into that, ma'am, but again, when we send out the notices, we try to send them out 2 weeks in advance. The case is also put on the agenda 2 weeks prior to this one, so to give people notice of that there's an item coming forward. And then one final thing, ma'am, is that it's going to go to City Council. And so this isn't your this isn't your only opportunity to speak on the issue.
But see, the thing is that if people don't check the agenda or or your amendment, whatever, we don't know about these meetings until the day we receive the notice. And like I tell you, I received it today, and I'm like, okay, I have to log in by 5 o'clock. It was 4:35, and I'm like, I have a meeting at 6, and you know, that's not fair to us.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Again, sorry if that was the case, but from our, and we'll double check, right? On our perspective, we had sent out the notices 2 weeks ago.
And it does say your letter does state, if you can't make it, you can, you know, write your questions and give it to us before the day of the meeting. Like I said, okay, I'll write the question, but the meeting is today. I can't give it to you before the day of the meeting. So, you know, that defeats the purpose.
Yes, ma'am. And you're able to also speak on the issue as you are currently through the forum that you're utilizing. But again, we'll double check on the mail issue if there's other issues with other letters going out.
And like I said, yeah, the letter does say September 8, 2021, but my envelope says the 20th of September, 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
But yes, I have no problem with that, because right now, to my knowledge, I think 628, right now, I'm not too sure, but it is like a duplex, two apartment thing. I mean, that's no big deal.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say? I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
didn't get your
all.
last
Thank
name.
you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Moving on to item number 8, consider and take action on the proposed amendment.
Yes.
So sorry,
Let me-
Mr. Arroyos?
We close public hearing at 5:52.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 8, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Lot 10, Country Green, Block 14, located at 628 Milo Road, from R1, single-family residential, to R2, medium-density residential.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, once again, Carlos Gainar with the City of Socorro. I think there's been enough information on this case. Rezoning from R1 to R2, the applicant is wishing to do a duplex, and as we've said in many other meetings before, the duplex is not allowed in the R1. The information is in front of you. Parcel is large enough, minimum of 10,000 square feet. This one's 13,000 square feet. Staff is recommending approval, and if you do decide to move forward with the approval, we'd ask that you put a condition that it be limited to the duplex. As I've said before, the R2 allows different types of multifamily. We would like for the density to be limited to the duplex in this case. Here's the next slide. Here's the location map. Next slide, zoning map.
I have a question on the
Yes, ma'am.
zoning map.
On the zoning map?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So Mr. Terrazas used to actually, I guess, get on the map, and then he would be able to zoom out so that we could see. So I see one orange and I see a pink,
Correct.
but I can't, tell from that picture in the more surrounding area what other zonings there might be. Do you have that information?
So
Or
I-
can you show us the map?
I don't have the zoomed out information, Ms. Cruz, but I can tell you that you're correct. There's one across the street, and then there was one, like 2 blocks away that was reviewed by you all maybe 30 days ago, 45 days ago. That was also rezoned from R1 to R2. But there are, just to answer your question another way, there are some R2s, but the predominant land use zoning of this area is R1.
Mr. Gainar, the person on the phone, she lives at that address?
No, that was across the street, 621, I believe.
620, okay, thank you.
Yes.
And just to follow up from what you just said, when you say across the street, do you mean across Milo Drive or?
Yes, across Milo, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And so on the pictures that we have in the packet, it looks like there's another property next, well, there's no fence between that property and the one next to it. Is it, does the owner own both of those properties?
That I don't know, sir. That's a question for the owner. But it looks from the aerial that is correct, that there doesn't seem to be a fence. But when we looked at the zoning map, the parcel data shows that's the parcel that's outlined in front of you in the presentation. There is a clear delineation on the parcel.
Yeah.
And this is the aerial photograph, and I think that's the last slide. Next slide.
I think this is an old Google picture, Strawberry.
Yeah, but the one, this one right here.
You see, the trailer's no longer there.
Yeah, but there's no clear line dividing
Oh,
it.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. I guess the aerial photo, do we know when that was taken?
I don't, ma'am. That's taken off of Google, but the applicant is here if you'd like to ask him questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I do have a question. Will the trailer be removed and then you'll be adding the duplex?
Yes, that trailer that you see up there right now will be removed.
Okay.
I'll add that trailer's been there since like 1974, and it's in really, really bad condition. And it's been in bad condition for 2 decades probably.
And to Mr. Arroyos' point, is there a fence now, even a small one,
Cisneros.
between the? I'm sorry? Oh, Cisneros, I'm sorry.
No, there is no existing fence right now, no, on that property line. And the biggest reason for that is we're waiting to have that trailer removed.
So you do plan to put a fence eventually?
Yeah, there will be a fence between both properties, yes.
Thank you.
So I think historically, we've seen a number of these, and some have, been approved, some have not. being that there's some in the vicinity of there, and we approved one less than 30 days ago, and there's no neighbor opposition, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion made by Mr. Enrique Cisneros to approve with staff recommendations and seconded by Mr. Arturo Lafuente. Mr. Andrew Arroyos?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Enrique Cisneros?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ernest Gomez?
Let me ask him one question. Obviously, he gets along with that neighbor. He doesn't have to build a fence if he doesn't want to, is that correct?
I believe a fence is required between two residential lots, sir.
A fence is required.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yes.
Thank you so much. Mr. David Estrada? Abstain. Mr. Arturo Lafuente?
Yes.
Ms. Julie Dominguez?
Yes.
And Ms. Miriam Cruz?
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to item number 9, public hearing request for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Tract 4K6, Socorro Grant, Block 3, located at 10883 Thunder Road, from R1 Single Family Residential to C2 General Commercial. Mr. Arroyos?
We open public hearing at 5:59. So we close public hearing at 5:59.
Moving on to item number 10, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Tract 4K6, Socorro Grant, Block 3, located at 10883 Thunder Road, from an R1 Single Family Residential to C2 General Commercial.
Mr. Chair, once again, Carlos Gallinard, this is another rezoning. I'm going to walk you through the slides. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from R1 to C2. The property is currently vacant. The parcel is a little bit over an acre and a half, 73,180 square feet. Applicant is looking to look at his options with when he came in first to approach us about the rezoning. You know, some applicants have a particular land use that they'd like to look at. He does not. He said he'd just like to explore his options with the C2. Process the application. So again, looked at it from a land use, adjacent zonings, location perspective, and that is why the staff is recommending approval. There are other existing commercial districts, C2 immediately adjacent to this lot, and then it's about one block away, actually one parcel away from Horizon Boulevard. Next slide. Here's the location of the parcel. It's the parcel in yellow with the red star. So as I mentioned, there are other C2s currently adjacent to this parcel of land. Next slide. Here's the property image. Here is the aerial. You could see that while there are other C2s, the area is still vacant. And so there are opportunities for the area to transition to commercial, right? It's already commercial, but it's going to continue to transition to commercial development. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is the applicant here?
He is spent, yes.
¿En English o en español, señor? Prefiero- no. En español. Le tengo una pregunta. Estoy hablando yo. Yo sé que no se puede ver. Nos estaban diciendo que nomás está tratando de ver, explorar sus opciones para en cambiar, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo va a usar esta propiedad? Quería preguntarle, ¿tiene algo en mente? ¿Puede hablar?
Sí, tengo algo en mente. Lo que quiero hacer es tener el espacio para poder hacerlo comercial, para tener los lugares como taller y como panadería.
¿Cómo qué? ¿Qué era la segunda cosa?
como panadería
Oh,
y
panadería.
como taller.
Okay.
¿Taller mecánico?
¿Cómo?
¿Taller mecánico?
No, de body work.
¿Dónde?
De body work.
¿The body work?
Ajá.
Okay.
I have a
So
question for
just to clarify, he would need a conditional use permit.
Daniel Prochnow.
He would need a conditional use permit to do the body work on a C2.
Yeah.
And that was not verbalized to us during the application.
So-
Mr. Gallinat, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Gallinat, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I do understand that, I guess generally speaking, it is pretty close to Horizon Boulevard. I guess my train of thought is usually anything along Horizon Boulevard makes sense to be commercial. But because it is one parcel in, I guess, there's a concern for me, especially because I don't know if you've ever passed by or been a client of Fiesta Beer, but sometimes because it is a drive-through, there is a bit of a line, and no shade to the whoever owns that, because I am a client as well. But my concern would be, you know, if there's already a line there, you know, my concern is traffic. So if there would be another commercial place, you know, what if any potential problems can we see, or maybe conditions can we put, right, that
Yeah.
that allows for the flow of traffic, not just because of the first business, but really for the one that we're seeing today.
So Ms. Cruz, just so I'm clear, you're asking the question that there, in your estimation, there's already and I understand the point that Thunder is not Horizon Boulevard, which Horizon Boulevard is, we all recognize solely or mostly commercial, right?
Mostly.
Yes.
That's a great point. The only caveat that I would add is, and I think that we would change, or I would change my recommendation, is if he didn't have that commercial lot to the north of him, right? So if he was, so 100% agree. If all of Horizon is commercial, then you want a buffer between commercial and residential, right? So, but if everything else on top of that was residential, I think the recommendation would be different. In this case, he is bookend by 2 commercial lots, right? So again, listen, is it C2, not egregious in this location? He already has 2 C2s next to him. If you remember, one of the first things that I mentioned to you many meetings ago is that do you also want a single family home next to 2 commercial lots? Again, you could have them, and they do exist. In my estimation, it's probably best that you don't, right? It's sort of a commercial area. So that's where the recommendation comes from. Number 2, in terms of your recommendation about, or your suggestion about what we could do to mitigate traffic issues, you know, if this was a larger lot, if this was if this was a Target or a Walmart or even a shopping center, I would say impose a condition of a traffic impact analysis so that we could see that there may be tons of traffic coming through there. You need a stoplight. I don't know that that is the case here. I mean, it's an acre and a half. He's mentioning that he wants sort of neighborhood commercial, bakery. I don't know that there would be, quite
Which
frankly.
may be a hit, right?
What's
I mean,
that?
He might be a hit, right? Like, he might have the best recipe in town, and there
Yeah,
might
that's
be
right.
some cars, you know, lined
Yeah,
up.
that's right.
I don't mean to joke, but I guess I
I was
just do
just,
worry.
if I could just finish my thought, I was just gonna mention, I don't know that commercial activity is gonna generate enough traffic
Okay.
where you might have a concern.
Okay, and I guess the only thing I will point out to what you said is that the north parcel is divided by that hill, right? So that,
Yeah.
the parcel's down there, and so even though I understand that it is next to it, there is still some, I guess because of the decline, there's that separation that, I mean, really nothing is built there. So
Yeah.
even if it is commercial, and so, I mean, again, I mean, I welcome any panaderia, you know, to Socorro. I'm a fan, but, those are my concerns. But thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gallina, is
Madam.
the Thunder Street more lots commercial C2 like I heard? Like
No,
this?
it's more residential.
Okay.
But again, it's more residential as you get further out of Horizon, right? Like many major thoroughfares, you get into the neighborhood. So that's why this one's a little bit tricky, if you will, but with the recommendation. So it's almost at the intersection of Horizon and Thunder.
So actually, they're gonna use Thunder Street as a commercial too?
Well, the answer to that question is yes, you would have access to this lot from Thunder. Doesn't necessarily mean that Thunder automatically becomes a commercial street. It's still, the right-of-way width is still narrower, right? You're not gonna have a lot of truck traffic coming and going.
So is the city of Socorro established the Thunder Street as a commercial? I think they're gonna need wider the street, right?
No, sir, we are not establishing Thunder Street as a commercial. It is a collector street, right? And I don't wanna get all technical, but residential, collector, thoroughfare, there's a classification. I apologize if I'm straying, but no, we are not classifying Thunder as a commercial street. All we are saying is that there's a particular lot closer to Horizon.
Okay, because
would have access.
if Thunder Street is not wide enough for commercial C2, I think they should leave something like a right of way in the land of the property to later on to increase the street, because if you think that one day Thunder Street is gonna be a commercial street, so let's start thinking right now, no later on, right?
I mean, I think that's a question for Mr. Marwan. I'm not sure how you do that through a rezoning. You might be able to do that through a plat, right? When they're dedicating land and then
Yes.
the plat would show. This is not a plat, and so I'm not 100% sure if you're able to put that condition on the land.
What was the exact question on that?
No, because I think Thunder Street is not enough wider for commercial C2, and if commercial vehicles are gonna get in and out, so I think we need to get prepared in the future to get a destination of right away wide enough.
Yeah, and so I think that's what Mr. Galinar actually said was correct, is if you're looking at filing a plat or you're coming up with like a master plan for a community, something like that, that's where then we would discuss changing the dimensions of the streets. But on just rezoning on one property, that's kind of a difficult thing to institute because the applicant doesn't control the other surrounding properties as well. So we're able to do that on the platting process because the developers coming in, they can actually move things around. But
I think when the plans permits to do the commercial, I don't know what kind of business gonna be there. Can the city think about the right of way on the street?
yeah, if it's that's kind of a capital improvement issue. You can actually see up there on that whiteboard that City of Socorro has several projects and they have a budget. That is something you can come up with city council, is widening a particular street if that's a concern. Yeah, it's something city council can address.
What kind of body, you say a body shop? I think if he's the same gentleman that owned that property for about 3 or 4 or 5 years, he came in here before and it was disapproved. And the reason it was disapproved is because if I remember correctly, it was heavy equipment. It was, like big trucks, semi-trucks and stuff like that, and that's why it was disapproved. Now, what kind of body shop is he planning on doing?
De carros, de trocas, de todo lo que sea chico para que sea usable para el lugar, porque no se puede poner tráfico grande allí para nada. Y me lo dijeron bien claro que tiene que estar unas especificaciones para poder hacer el trabajo y tiene que estar encerrado todo.
Una pregunta, señor. ¿Ahorita el terreno lo está usando o está baldío?
No, está limpio.
Está vacant. So
Sí, está
it's a vacant lot right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been used. This came up before.
Okay.
So, another question. See, if the city of Socorro is planning to be this Thunder Street as a commercial, I think it's good to start thinking in the commercial area.
Yes, sir, but we are not. That's the response to that question is that the city of Socorro has no intention of turning Thunder Road into a commercial street. This is a one case, right? We're taking on a case-by-case basis. This is one case in which you have the applicant, again, based on the items that I outlined, location, surrounding land uses. That's where we're getting our recommendation. It does not mean that we are wanting the rest of Thunder to be commercial. I would also answer similar to Mrs. Cruz's response, is that if this was middle of the block and there weren't any C2s, the recommendation would probably be to deny, right? And so I understand your point. I just don't know how legally we are exacting property from a property owner through a rezoning. I'm not sure that you could do that, and I think that's what the attorney said.
And as a point of clarification, he's gonna have to go through more rigorous approval process to either get a bakery, get a shop, anything else. This is just to turn it from residential to commercial. So this will come back up again.
Mr. Cisneros, 100% correct. So if he does decide to move forward with the body shop, that is a conditional use. I think at that point you could maybe put conditions like landscaping, maybe buffering from some areas through where you place the location of the building. But at this point, that's exactly right as Mr. Cisneros' point, that's not necessarily what you would have to be reviewing today.
I have a question, if I may. How will the residentials, the ones that are closest to Horizon, be affected? Do you see anything in the future that could possibly happen? Will it affect their taxes since they're in between two commercial?
You mean the two lots that are residential right now?
Correct.
Those are vacant, and so
No,
they're.
the ones closest to Horizon, the ones that feed off our Horizon.
Can we put up the map, please?
You see the house that has like a blue roof?
I think that's a store.
This one.
One of them is a business, ma'am, and I think the other one.
The reason I'm asking,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
that's one of my family members' property.
Yeah.
And will that be affecting them in
terms
any
of the-
way?
In terms of the property value?
Property value, will they?
So in terms of the property value, I don't think so. I think when the Central Appraisal District makes comps, right, every year to see how much your taxes are gonna go up, they compare residential to residential. And so commercial to commercial, manufacturing to manufacturing. So, if he makes an improvement on his land, obviously his taxes will go up because he is making improvements.
Mm-hmm.
Any surrounding comps or comparables would then be done with that land, commercial to commercial, not residential to residential.
Okay.
And then in terms of how that might affect it, just in terms of the use, depending on where he places his building, right? But that's why you have the setbacks. And so he can't put the building right next to the lot. He'd have to separate it. So, I don't know that there's gonna, I don't know that there's not gonna be any more egregious than having a lot, quite frankly,
Right.
fronting Horizon,
Right, thank you.
And Mr. Gaynor, all the residents that surround that area have gotten letters, letting them know that it's going
Yeah,
from
the
residential.
200 feet,
Yeah.
yes.
And,
correct.
and there's been no complaints, no phone calls for the meeting today, right?
How
No, no.
wide is Thunder Road? What's the right of way for Thunder Road?
I don't have that. If I am guesstimating, I say Thunder Road is maybe 52 feet right away, maybe 48.
Does C2 zoning allow for any trucking businesses?
They would if you have the conditional use.
Conditional
So
use?
anything having, that's a great question. So, and that's where we're getting the clarification on what he wants to do. If he decides, the bakery, no, right? Sort of bakery, things that are sort of neighborhood related, you don't need the conditional use. All auto parts, auto related items would need the conditional use.
And in order to get a trucking company in there, the road has to be a certain width, otherwise it wouldn't get approved automatically.
Well, if we approve this, we can do it with a condition that there's no big trucks.
You could put it,
That's for the,
you could put a condition, that's a question for Marwan as well. Could they put a condition on what type of traffic goes in and out of the lot?
I think that comes with the conditional use permit process.
no semi-trucks, no reefers trucks, no trailers, no, he says he's gonna do small vehicles, you know, pickups, 3,500 down, trucks, cars, but not semis.
Yeah, so if you're saying if he's going to, I guess, work on those kind of things, that you could make a limited use on a conditional use permit, what kind of things,
Yeah, but not until it comes in, the conditional use comes in?
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So to ask my question again, because I don't think I asked it correctly enough. So earlier today, we had a phone call from somebody voicing an opinion for a change, right? We didn't have anybody call in to make a positive or negative comment on this change from R1 to C2.
Judith, no one's called in
No,
or,
okay.
no, sir? Correct.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve
Do you
as
have-
per,
Cuando la vez pasada...
No lo oigo. Disculpe, ¿puede hablar más? Gracias.
Cuando la vez pasada hice la solicitud, yo lo quería para industrial. Y para industrial necesitaban entrar y salir camiones grandes para descargar cosas y cargar. Y fue lo que me dijeron que no se podía porque la salida estaba peligrosa para la bajada y los camiones grandes. Ahora lo quiero para otra cosa completamente diferente. Y inclusive tengo varias opciones de no, si en caso de que yo vea que las cosas que me piden para hacer el taller no se puede, no lo hago, hago otra cosa que sí esté permitido y que sí pueda con las cosas que me están pidiendo.
y señor, sí sabe de que la junta de hora es para cambiar la clasificación de residencial a comercial, ¿verdad?
Sí,
Que va a haber otro proceso para aprobar el uso condicional de la propiedad, ¿verdad?
Sí, eso es, bueno, no te entiendo eso, pero es para cambiarlo de residencial 1 a C2, a comercial 2.
Sí, sí. So, antes de que ponga cualquier negocio o empiece a practicar o consultar o lo que vaya a hacer, hay otro proceso para el uso de la propiedad.
Oh, sí, ya
¿verdad?
él me lo explicó eso todo.
Ya.
Sí, yo sé.
I have a question for the applicant, if I may, just by curiosity. Bienvenido, señor. Nomás le quería preguntar, ¿para cuándo piensa a comenzar construcción? Construction.
Oh, como en un transcurso de 1 a 6 meses.
1 o 6 meses. Gracias. Buena suerte.
So, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to approve, or I think Mr. Cisneros has made it, so if
Yeah, he made the first one.
I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
I'm so sorry, who second? You, okay. Thank you so much. So I have a motion to approve by Mr. Enrique Cisneros with staff, to approve with staff recommendations, and seconded by Mr. Andrew Cisneros. Mr. Andrew Arroyos, so sorry. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez,
Yes, ma'am.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
No.
Ms. Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
and Ms. Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to item number 11, consider and take action on the proposed preliminary plat approval, section 38-8 for Valle Nuevo Commercial Center, number 1, being out of a portion of tracks 11, 12A, 13A12, 14, and 14A, Block 5, Socorro Grant, City of Socorro, El Paso County, Texas. Save and accept 1.192 acres, more or less, out of the Mesa Spur Drain, and 0.369 acres, more or less, out of the Juan de Herrera Lateral.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, once again, Carlos Gainar, last item of the night, and this one's gonna look familiar to you because you approved the master plan for the adjacent lots that came to you 2 weeks ago. So this is approval for a preliminary plat for Valle Nuevo Commercial Unit 1. The facts are in front of you. 25.2 acres is the size. The property is currently vacant. The proposed use is commercial / retail, and then the land is zoned the industrial commercial mixed-use development. Applicant is requesting the preliminary plat, and as you all know, the preliminary plat is the first step to get the development going once you have the zoning in place. And so this land was rezoned, it's my understanding, a year ago, more than a year ago, July 2020 by the P&Z, and then August 20th, 2020 by the City Council. The plat includes 19 lots, which include 18 commercial lots, 1 pond, and then it includes 4 public rights-of-way and a right-of-way dedication for the extension of a street, which I'll show you in just a second. The applicant is also, part of the application also requires, or is they're requesting the waiver request for the right-of-way width to allow for a 60-foot street cross-section. The pavement would be 40 feet, the sidewalks of 5 feet, and the parkway, which is that space between the street and the park and the sidewalk, is 5 feet. That would stay the same. The thing that they're decreasing is the, so the way that the code is written now requires 2 travel lanes of 24 feet. They would still have each 2 travel lanes each way. They would still have the travel lanes on each way, and then the 8-foot shoulder. And so when staff reviewed it, you actually want narrower streets, right? It slows traffic down. We're okay with the request, and so we are recommending approval with the condition, or the condition that the TIA is reviewed before it goes to City Council. I'm going to go into the just walk you through the plat. So here is the location map, and again, this is something that you all are familiar with. Corner of Nuevo Waco Tanks and North Loop. Next slide, please. Here is the zoning. Next slide. Here are the parcel images of the land. Next slide. And then the aerial, again, is that corner intersection between North Loop and Nuevo Waco Tanks. Next slide. Here is what the plat looks like. So again, 19 different lots, including the pond. Next slide. That's the plat, the subdivision plat. Staff has reviewed this with the applicant's engineer. We have gone back and forth on corrections. You know, it's ready to go, and so it's now in front of you for approval. Next slide. And then just the final slide, as I mentioned to you, I wanted to just show you in context of the larger Socorro Logistics, which you saw 2 weeks ago. Next slide, or just enter. And that's the location of this particular plat. And so I think as you are now looking at this, you're going to start to see the development of this parcel of land over the next several months. You saw the master plan and the preliminary plat for Socorro Logistics. This is now the preliminary plat for Valle Nuevo Commercial Unit number 1. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The waiver would be changing the 60, would be changing it from what to 60 feet?
72 to 60 feet. It's 72, Jorge? 70, I'm sorry, 70 to 60.
And 40 to what? Or from what?
So so the way that it works, Ms. Cruz, is the pavement width is the 40. So when we talk about the right-of-way, it's the whole property line to property line, includes the sidewalk, parkway, 2 sides of the street, parkway, sidewalk. And so they are changing. The parkway and the sidewalk would stay the same. There's no changes in that, and I think that's good. You want the walkability, you want the sidewalks. What they're decreasing is the pavement width, which is the driving lanes, essentially from 2 to 1, 2 lanes to 1, but still keeping 8 feet of shoulder width.
Okay, and so I know generally speaking, smaller roads, or I should say narrow roads, means slower traffic, but
Yes, ma'am.
these are cars coming down 40, 45 miles an hour, turning into these businesses, and so I don't think this is the area that we would want cars to have a very small way to turn into, and that's just obviously my opinion. Because as much as I want cars to slow down, generally speaking, I also understand that they need the room to make sure that they can turn and that they're not gonna be hitting, you know,
Yeah, this
the other
doesn't
car.
change the turning radius. So, right, there's the way that you turn into, that does not change, the driveways into these lots doesn't change. None of that changes. It really is just, and again, you're not, obviously you are decreasing it, right? But it's not to go from 70 to 60 on the pavement width, again, to slow down traffic a little bit, to make sure that there's, especially in this area that has commercial, remember you're gonna have just cars coming and going, so that's where the staff recommendation is coming from.
So as a point of clarification, because I'm lost, we're not talking about Eastlake. Are we talking about the lane that turns into these businesses, or are we talking about the road behind these businesses?
We're talking about the one behind it.
Behind it.
Correct. So the one in front is either North Loop or Nuevo Waco Tanks.
Uh-huh.
So it's a street. Yeah, can you do the the other one, please, the plat.
So is it this one?
Yeah, if you see the plat, yeah, no, the next one, please. It's
The ones behind the lots, right?
Oh, okay.
And and the waiver is just for this one road, right? The one going south and then going west.
yes. You want?
I'll take this out.
But
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the commission. Yeah, so the waiver applies for Marketplace, Market Street, Socorro Logistics Lane. That one is going to stay at 72-foot right-of-way. And as you recall from the last meeting for the Socorro Logistics Master Plan, that's going to be the main entrance to the industrial park, and that would, with that particular development, that's the intersection that would be signalized.
That's can you repeat what you just said? I didn't catch the last part.
So the streets that we're asking for the waiver are the rear end access street, and in the two intersections closer to North Loop, right? Those two. Socorro Logistics Lane, which is over there at the far north corner next to that pawning area, that one's gonna stay at 70, just the entrance, and then it'll transition back to 60 within the industrial park.
yeah, that was a little fast for me. I'm sorry. Does it affect any of the streets that connect to Eastlake?
No, it doesn't affect any of the streets.
So it's just the one street behind the commercial lots.
Right, and the two intersections that are right there.
Okay, but it doesn't affect the feeder or the connecting roads to Eastlake?
No.
Okay. And just again, sorry to go over it again. So you're going from, could you explain the waiver again? You're going from X to 60 and from X to 40?
Right, no, so the waiver is a 70-foot right-of-way
Uh-huh.
to a 60-foot right-of-way. That 60-foot right-of-way would still have 5-foot sidewalks, 5-foot parkways, and a 40-foot wide pavement. Two 12-foot lanes in each direction and an 8-foot paved shoulders.
Okay, so we're losing 10 feet.
Right, and just so, to answer your question in regards to the turning movements, we've analyzed the turning movements with the different types of vehicles coming in, and it does not, I guess the vehicles have a safely turn in and out, within all the streets.
What kind of traffic are you expecting?
For these streets, it's just general traffic. Like we said, really the Socorro Logistics, the industrial part of the master plan, they're all going to be coming in through Socorro Logistics Lane, and those trucks will be staying away from these particular streets here.
And then you're probably expecting employee parking all around that?
Right. So
Around that.
every lot will have its own parking requirements.
Is this commercial on North Loop facing inwards or outwards? And what about the one on Nuevo Waco Tanks?
So the commercial along North Loop would also be facing North Loop Drive. We're actually in coordination with TxDOT right now for them to allow us, certain driveways per their requirements to have access and fronting North Loop Drive as well.
Do you have any approvals right now?
Any approvals?
Yeah.
No, right now it's in coordination with the Axis Management Committee. And we're awaiting, we're awaiting approval on that.
And if one, I mean, you would expect that they all face the same direction, right?
Right,
And as well as in the Nuevo Jico tanks?
correct.
Okay. And the Nuevo Jico tanks, you already have approval for them to be facing?
So those will come in with the building permits, and then those will be submitted to the planning department for review.
And so if those don't get approved, then they obviously would need to be entering from the back, and then that would be much more traffic, right?
Right, so the back street really serves as just as an access street, but really what's driving the commercial development is really the traffic on East Lake Boulevard and North Loop Drive.
Why the change?
North
Why-
Loop has, excuse me.
Go ahead.
North Loop has, 2 lanes going, let's say, going west. Are you gonna have a turn-in lane, or are they gonna have to turn from one of the lanes?
So North Loop is currently right now just striped, it's 2 lanes, but there's enough space for an additional lane in each direction.
Or just a turn-in lane? In
Right.
other words, you can move to the side and then turn without affecting the traffic coming behind you?
Correct.
Okay.
My question is why the waiver? Did you guys add more square footage to a building?
For
was
something
ponding?
of this particular matter, I mean, we felt confident as far as the turning movements, the safety of the pedestrians, also taking that into account. We've done it in other municipalities. Your neighbor here with City of El Paso, they actually require a smaller, you could even go a little bit smaller on a commercial, what they call a local commercial and industrial street. So we kind of looked at just a little bit of every factors and kind of looked at this being the best cross-section to apply for this.
And TxDOT still has to approve this, right? This change?
TxDOT approves of the driveways that we're requesting on North Loop Drive.
Okay.
Are you planning on any other traffic control mechanisms along the back roadway? So I know I've driven, in the back of businesses, let's say Las Palmas, right off of Zaragoza. And those back streets, I mean, people tend to go a little bit faster just because they expect for no traffic to be there. And so I do understand that it's an issue and that you do want to shorten them. That's important. But what if any other things do you plan on putting there, whether it's a median, speed bumps?
No. So just at the heels, we'll typically put some signage there to slow down, put some striping. There'll be some striping there as well, especially once you come in south and then you turn back west. So we'll have a little bit of some striping and some signage, but other than that, that would be it.
Because I can imagine someone trying to cut through there, right? So there's traffic backed up in Nuevo Jico tanks, and they want to try and beat the traffic. I can imagine them, right, going through the back, trying to cut through, and wanting to go fast. So that's why I'm asking if there's any other traffic control mechanisms.
Not at this one right now. It would just be striping, some signage, and typically you'd probably save a little bit more time if you actually go through that traffic intersection there on North Loop Drive than Nuevo Jico tanks, than to hit a right and then drive along all the rear access streets. So.
Thank you.
Anybody else has any questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion made by Mr. Andrew Arroyos to approve and seconded by Mr. Enrique Cisneros. Mr. Andrew Arroyos?
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros?
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez?
I have one question. If TxDOT says no to your driveways, what's your plan after that?
So TxDOT, based on the requirements, and based on this specific length, they would allow at least three driveways abutting these commercial lots. And so one of the things that the covenants would have, with the plat being recorded, is that these lots will have to provide ingress and egress to each other, kind of like what you see typical on commercial shopping centers. Obviously, TxDOT might not want driveways at each specific site there, due to safety, but we would be getting at least three driveways in that area.
TxDOT have a specification for those driveways in, so don't worry.
That's correct, they do.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Thank you. Mr. David Estrada?
Yes.
Mr. Arturo Lafuente?
Yes.
Ms. Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
and Ms. Miriam Cruz.
I'm gonna say no.
Motion carried. Moving on to item number 12, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I had a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Cisneros.
Just, I wanted to comment on the caller's question about the 2 weeks. I think that's plenty of time. I mean,
Yes,
it's
sir.
hard for, you know, developers, you know, people that want to file changes, investments, you know, making purchases, having to invest, you know, a lot of time and money. So I think 2 weeks is plenty of time for those letters to go out. Thank you.
And then I think, Judith, don't we send it again when it goes to city council or no? We only send it once before P and Z? Or again for city council? No,
No.
okay, yeah, so it
Just
is once.
once.
But it is in the newspaper,
It
it is introduced 2 weeks ahead here, 2 weeks ahead at city council. And that's what the code requires, so we're just following what the code is asking us to do.
From the way, when I used to work at Lower Valley Water District, it was as long as you have one notice available to the public. It doesn't matter which one, as long as it's one notice. It's okay.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, 2 years ago, the developments along the North Loop, close to the company gas, they were approved, but on my behalf, I was asking for an extra line to turn in and out of that development. Now there's a problem because there's no extra line to get into the development, and not even now. I think 2 or 3 accidents have been passing in that area, so now City of Socorro needs to do something in that area.
I'd have to look at it, I'm not familiar with it, sir, but I'm happy to, if you want to talk to me offline or even here at this part of this meeting, I don't have the
I
intersection.
know.
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
One question, about a year ago, or a little bit more, the question was asked if they were going to have a walkway around the
Mr.
new
Gomez, can you speak
subdivision.
into the microphone? Sorry.
The new subdivision there that's going on right here in New Hueco Tanks. There's, you know, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's still going on, is that correct? It's planned for that?
You know what, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you, and so I know you mentioned Nuevo Waco Tanks, new subdivision.
Okay, let me tell you one more time. We'll try it one more
Yes, sir.
time. Is there going to be a walkway around the subdivision, the new subdivisions, phase 1, 2, and 3, in New Hueco Tanks Road? It was proposed, it was asked, and they said they were going to. But I
On
go
the
around that
residential
area.
or on these that we're talking about now?
On the subdivision,
On the residential.
right
I think.
here.
On the residential
yeah,
ones
on
across the street?
Judge Caldwell and all those.
I'm gonna have to apologize, I'd have to review it for you, I haven't been here long enough to give you.
Would you please, because
Yes.
I specifically asked Mr. Terrazas, and he said yes, it was
Okay.
all planned for that. Now Mr. Terrazas isn't here, and I'm not sure that's gonna happen.
I understand that, I don't have an answer for you, but I'm happy to look at it. Let's hang out before the meeting, and if you give me the location, and then next time we meet, I could give you a response.
I did want to point out that on the agenda, items 5, 7, and 9 say request, and I think that needs to be removed since we weren't doing a public hearing request, we were just doing the public hearing, just to point that out for future reference. Whoever is in charge of looking at that. And I know that previously I had also requested or asked about, getting a status update, any information that is available for us to know about any annexation that the city is planning on. If I'd like to maybe make it an agenda item, and I'd be happy to make Mr. Gomez's question an agenda item too, so that we can discuss it in regards to the walkway, because I'm interested in that too, just so that the public can have notice that we're going to be discussing that, or we're going to be getting some information. I guess I haven't submitted anything for an agenda item, so would I submit that to Ms. Eunice or?
You could you're saying it now. I mean, we're taking notes.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And just to kind of, what I can remember off, from memory, so on the, west side of Nuevo Hueco Tanks, that was at one point residential, but then it was changed to commercial. But on the east side of Old Hueco Tanks, that's still residential. So when they originally brought that, there was walkways. I haven't seen anything new, so from my memory, it should be the same. So we'll have that in the records.
And when you say walkways, you mean like
Walking
elevated?
paths, trailing walk,
It was gonna be a median
like walking
Sidewalks?
trails.
along the, in the middle of the
Oh,
street, and
I-
it was gonna be trees and
Okay.
stuff, so
Yeah.
people could walk to and from a park.
Yeah.
Do you, just so I'm clear, and do you all remember más o menos what, was it at a P&Z meeting, so I could go back and look at the minutes and the video?
We were in
It-
person at that point, I think, right?
Yes,
think
we
we
were
were
in
in
person,
person, so it's
and
been
there
over
was,
a year.
I believe it was East Lake Valley 1, 2, and 3. At one point, it had, like a walking trail. Aside from the sidewalks, I think it showed a walking trail or
'Cause-
whatnot, but, I
Okay.
mean, whatever was approved back then, I'm sure it can't change or whatnot, but
I will
we
review it, sir.
could review
Yeah,
it.
I will review it and come back to you.
From what I can recall from memory, the goal was, instead of getting the 3% in parks, we were gonna get square footage, we were gonna get much more
Got it.
in walkways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have information, but I'm happy to look at it.
But to ask, to ask, were you requesting a presentation on, what was it you were requesting, Ms. Cruz?
Anything, related to plans to annex,
Yes.
uh,
Or I guess if we
land
could get the rules on that?
yeah, there's codes, but I guess I'm just interested in whatever's available to the public, for planning and zoning staff to present it to us, so that we can have an idea of how maybe, what we can expect for our master plan to be changed.
I agree with that. I would
So, Ms.
second
Cruz, just so I'm clear though, just any talked about potential annexations that the city has in its pipeline?
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
and if I could add to that, the state of Texas changed, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, where they changed the laws where municipalities or they had limited municipalities on what they could acquisition or not. If we can get an update on that, that'd be great as well.
On annexations as well?
Yes, sir. Annexation, yeah. Thank you for that correction, yes.
I don't think we have anything else to report.
Thank you so much, yeah. Just one item on, if you're gonna move on to the Planning and Zoning Department report, there is some information on a public hearing being conducted by TxDOT on behalf of the City of Socorro for Arterial 1. You all probably know more about this than I do, but you know that there's two major extensions of Nuevo Hueco Tanks, and then Arterial 1, which is east of Horizon Boulevard. And so there's a public meeting as part of our due diligence, environmental review. And so there's the information. If you're not able to log in today, the virtual meeting will be on through October 21st, I believe. I don't have the information in front of me.
October 11th.
11th. So about 2 or 3 weeks, and so this is the opportunity for the public to provide inputs and comments on Arterial 1, that road that is being planned.
And if this isn't already posted online, can we post
It
it
is.
so the public?
It
Okay,
should be,
great.
so Ms. Cruz, it should have been posted online already. It
And
is?
I got the notice in the mail. I don't know if you guys got the notice in the mail. Yeah, I got it. Little postcard.
That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving on to item number 14, which is excuse absent commission members.
Motion to delete item?
Thank you so much.
Motion to excuse.
The what?
Well, there's no one here. There's no one.
No, we don't have anybody, he came in.
Correct. Thank you so much. Mr. Andrew Arroyo,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez,
Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried.
No.
No.
Make a motion. Yes, sir.
No, we're leaving.
Real quick, so Ms. Rodarte had asked me, had wanted me to mention to you all, so she's asked me to look into a little bit more training for the P&Z and the Board of Adjustments. And so she's reached out to like professional real estate firms or experts that can give some training. And so that's coming to you. And so the question that I had is if you wanted it to be part of just a regular P&Z meeting, or do you want to have a special meeting just for workshop and training? Do you want to have it on a Saturday? Do you want to have it on a, just need some feedback from you so that as we start thinking through that, we're planning and making sure that we're accommodating your all schedules.
Is there like a specific length of the training that
It's
would be
about an
hour,
hour.
2 hours?
About an hour.
About an hour?
Yeah.
I prefer for it to be during the meeting.
Okay.
I think so too.
I'm open.
Okay. So what I'll do is I look, and it's still maybe a month or two away, but what I'll do is I will look at meetings where you might have 1 or 2 cases. And so that way you don't, like today you had a lot of cases, right? Or several, more than usual. So maybe look at a meeting where you have 1, 2, and then set aside the hour for the training. That works?
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing that.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question? I guess I would hope that that it be done afterwards so that applicants and people
Yes.
don't have to
That's right.
sit around. Okay.
Great point.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 15, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arroyos, and seconded?
Second.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cisneros. I have a motion made by Mr. Andrew Arroyos to adjourn. Mr. Andrew Arroyos?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Enrique Cisneros?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ernest Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada?
Yes.
Mr. Arturo Lafuente?
Yes.
Ms. Julie Dominguez?
Yes.
And Ms. Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 6:49 p.m.